Tonight, let's stay with a feeling almost everyone knows. Not a big feeling, not a dramatic one. A small, sharp moment where the world suddenly whispers, "I've been here before." You're standing somewhere ordinary, a hallway, a room, a street. Nothing special is happening. And then, for a few seconds, everything feels pre-written. Not similar, not familiar in a vague way, but specific, convincing, as if you already know what comes next. And then it vanishes, leaving you with one quiet question. How can a moment feel remembered before it becomes a memory? Most people call this remembering, but déjà vu isn't really a memory. It's something stranger. It's familiarity without details, a sense of knowing without being able to explain what you know. And that difference matters, because in the brain, familiarity and memory are not the same thing. They're connected, but they're not identical. They can separate. And when they separate, you get déjà vu. Let's make that feel simple. Your mind has two very different jobs. One job is fast. It asks, does this look like something I've seen? It doesn't need proof. It doesn't need a story. It just needs a pattern. The other job is slower. It asks, okay, where did I see this? What day was it? What place? What exact memory file matches this feeling? Déjà vu can be what happens when the fast system says yes, and the slow system comes back empty. So you're left with the feeling and none of the evidence. That mismatch is what makes it eerie, because your brain hates mismatch. Your brain wants the story, but the story doesn't arrive. Now here's the first wow idea. Familiarity is not a conclusion. It's a signal, a quick signal, a shortcut. It evolved to be fast because in real life, speed matters. If something feels familiar, you move more confidently. If something feels unfamiliar, you slow down, you scan, you protect yourself. So familiarity is like a quiet alarm system, but it doesn't always mean this happened before. Sometimes it only means this looks like something from before. And that's where déjà vu often begins. Similarity. Not exact repetition, similarity. Your brain is not a camera. It doesn't store life as perfect video. It stores patterns, structures, layouts, emotional textures. So if you walk into a space and the structure matches something stored, the familiarity signal fires, even if you've never been there. Think about how many places share the same geometry. Hotel corridors, office hallways, stairwells, apartment entrances, even certain street corners. Your brain has seen those shapes hundreds of times. So sometimes, one new place can feel old. Not because it is old, but because the pattern is old. Now let's add another layer. Attention. Because déjà vu is more likely when attention is uneven. When you're tired, or stressed, or you're multitasking. Your brain sometimes processes a scene before your conscious awareness fully arrives. Here is a calm way to picture it. You walk into a room. Your eyes catch the layout instantly, but your mind is still halfway elsewhere. So the brain creates a quick, low-resolution impression. Then, a second later, your attention locks in. The scene becomes vivid, full. Now I'm here. But here's the trick. Your brain has already touched the scene once, so the second, fully aware perception can feel like a repeat. Not because you time traveled, because your brain did a double pass, a fast pass, then a deep pass. That can create an almost perfect illusion. I've seen this exact moment. This is sometimes called split perception. Two passes, one moment, slightly out of sync. And here's a second wow idea. Déjà vu can be created by milliseconds, not minutes, not hours. Milliseconds. Now, Let's talk about why déjà vu fades so quickly. Because that's part of the mystery. If it were a real memory, you could hold it, you could explore it, but you can't. It slips away, fast. That's because the brain checks itself. When familiarity fires strongly, your memory systems begin searching. Okay, prove it. And when there's no matching file, the brain corrects. The feeling collapses. So déjà vu is self-correcting. It rises, then the system checks, then it falls. Now we can say something important. Déjà vu is not a message from the outside world. It's a moment inside your perception where the brain's construction process becomes visible. Normally, your brain hides its work. It just gives you reality, smooth, continuous, confident. Déjà vu is one of the rare moments where you can feel the scaffolding. And once you notice that, the feeling becomes less frightening, but more fascinating, because it reveals something quiet. Your sense of certainty does not always come from memory. Sometimes it comes from pattern recognition. Now, there's one more layer we should gently introduce: prediction. Because your brain doesn't only recognize patterns, it predicts them. All day, every day, without asking permission. It builds the next second before the next second happens, based on what usually follows, based on structure, based on probability. So in some cases, déjà vu may not be, "I remember this." It may be, "I predicted this perfectly." And a perfect prediction can feel like a memory, because the brain says, "Of course, this fits." That can create the strange feeling that you know what comes next. Not because you lived it, because your brain was ready for it. So tonight, let's keep the conclusion simple. Déjà vu is likely familiarity arriving without details, often triggered by similarity, attention timing, and the brain's prediction system. And that is already enough to explain why the feeling is so convincing. In part 2, we'll go deeper into the specific brain mechanisms, why tiredness increases it, why some people get it often, and why it clusters around certain kinds of environments. For now, let the idea settle. Déjà vu is not the universe repeating itself. It's your brain recognizing structure before it can explain what it recognized. Let's continue, slowly. Because now we're ready to talk about the part most people never hear. The part where déjà vu is not about recognition, but about labeling. Your brain doesn't just experience moments. It labels them, quietly, automatically. It decides, "This is happening now," or "This already happened." That decision usually feels invisible, but it's happening all the time. Every experience you have passes through a sorting system, not consciously, but structurally. Your brain asks, "Is this information new, or is this something I should store as memory?" Most of the time, this sorting works perfectly, so perfectly that you never notice it. But déjà vu may be what happens when the label is applied incorrectly. Not because the brain is broken, but because timing is delicate. Here's a simple way to imagine it. Picture two stamps. One says, "now," the other says, "past." Every experience gets one. In déjà vu, the experience arrives, and the wrong stamp touches it, just for a moment. So the present moment feels like a memory, even though it isn't one yet. This idea is sometimes called a memory tagging error, and it fits remarkably well with how the brain actually works. Because memory isn't created instantly. It takes time, milliseconds, seconds, sometimes longer. During that window, information is in transition, not fully present, not fully stored. If the brain misfires during that transition, you get familiarity without history. Now let's talk about where this happens in the brain, but gently, without medical drama. There's a region called the temporal lobe. It plays a role in memory, pattern recognition, and familiarity. It helps answer the question, "Have I encountered this before?" In rare medical cases, overactivity in this region can produce intense déjà vu. But here's the important part. Most people who experience déjà vu are completely healthy. Déjà vu is common, normal, human. The medical cases don't mean déjà vu is pathological. They simply show us that the feeling can be generated by known brain circuits, which makes it less mysterious and more fascinating. Now here's something subtle. Déjà vu is not random. It clusters. It happens more often in specific conditions, and that tells us a lot. For example, déjà vu is more common when you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're emotionally overloaded, when you're sleep deprived. Why? Because those states reduce timing precision. They blur the handoff between systems. The fast system fires, the slow system lags, and the mismatch appears. This is why déjà vu often happens late at night, or during long days, or when you're traveling, or when your routine is disrupted. Your brain is still doing its job, just less cleanly. Another pattern. Déjà vu is more common in younger people, and it tends to decrease with age. That surprises many people. But there's a gentle explanation. When you're younger, the world contains more novelty, more new environments, more new structures. Your brain is building templates rapidly, so there are more opportunities for partial matches. As life becomes more predictable, fewer new templates are formed, so fewer mismatches occur. This doesn't mean older brains are worse, it means they're more stable. Now let's pause, because this matters. Déjà vu does not mean your brain is failing. It often means your brain is working quickly in a complex environment. Here's another overlooked detail. Déjà vu often occurs when meaning arrives before explanation. You get the moment before you understand it. And that order feels wrong, because we expect explanation first. But the brain doesn't work that way. Meaning is fast, explanation is slow. That's why déjà vu feels convincing. It arrives with confidence, and confidence is persuasive. But confidence does not equal truth. It equals readiness. Now let's talk about something many people feel but rarely describe, the body sensation. During déjà vu, some people feel a slight drop in the stomach, a tightening in the chest, a pause in breathing, a brief stillness. That's not imagination. That's the nervous system reacting to uncertainty. Because your brain senses something doesn't line up. Your body notices the mismatch before your thoughts do, so the feeling becomes physical. This is another reason déjà vu feels powerful. It's not just a thought, it's a state. Now let's correct one last misunderstanding. Déjà vu is not your brain replaying a memory. It is not playback. It is classification. The brain asking, what category does this belong to? And briefly choosing the wrong one. When the system corrects itself, the feeling dissolves, almost instantly. And that's why you can't hold on to déjà vu. It's not meant to last. It's a transitional signal. So tonight, instead of seeing déjà vu as something uncanny, you can see it as a clue, a glimpse into how your brain decides what is happening now and what has already happened. In part 3, we'll step back even further. We'll talk about why the brain evolved this way, why prediction matters, why familiarity exists at all, and why déjà vu, strangely enough, may be a side effect of an intelligent system. For now, let the idea rest. Déjà vu is not a crack in reality. It's a moment where the brain's timing briefly shows itself. Now let's ask the deeper question. Not what déjà vu is, but why the brain allows it to happen at all. Because if this feeling were truly useless, or dangerous, or random, evolution would have erased it. The brain is expensive to run, and it does not keep glitches for no reason. So the existence of déjà vu tells us something quiet and important. This feeling is not a bug. It is a side effect of a system that usually works very well. To understand why, we need to talk about how the brain handles reality, not as a stream, but as a prediction. Your brain does not wait for the world to arrive. It constantly guesses what comes next. Before your eyes fully process an image, your brain has already formed an expectation. Before a sound finishes, your brain predicts its ending. Before a moment completes, your brain has already started preparing meaning. This is called predictive processing, and it is one of the most powerful ideas in modern neuroscience. The brain is not a passive receiver. It is an active simulator. It builds models of reality, and then checks how close those models are. Most of the time, the prediction and the input match closely enough, so you feel continuity, familiarity, flow. But sometimes, the prediction arrives too early. This is where déjà vu lives, not in memory, but in timing. Déjà vu happens when the feeling of knowing arrives before the content of knowing. The brain says, "I recognize this," before it can answer, "From where?" That gap, that brief mismatch, creates the sensation. Now let's slow this down. In normal memory recall, 3 things happen in order. First, the brain detects familiarity. Second, it searches for a source. Third, it confirms or rejects the match. But in déjà vu, step 1 fires, step 2 stalls, and step 3 never completes. The system pauses, and in that pause, the mind notices itself noticing. That's why déjà vu feels so strange. It's not the memory that's odd. It's your awareness catching the brain mid-process. This also explains something subtle. Why déjà vu feels certain, but also fragile. You are absolutely sure, and yet you can't hold on to it, because the brain never finishes the loop. Once higher reasoning steps in and demands evidence, the feeling collapses. So why does the brain allow this unfinished state? Because under normal conditions, it's extremely useful. Early familiarity detection helps you survive. It allows rapid decisions, fast reactions, pattern recognition. If the brain waited for full confirmation every time, you would be too slow. So the system is designed to err on the side of early recognition. Déjà vu is the rare moment when that strategy becomes visible. There's another layer. The brain does not store memories like recordings. It stores them as networks of associations. Places, shapes, emotions, angles, movement. When enough of these overlap, the familiarity signal activates, even if the situation itself is new. This is why certain locations, hallways, staircases, rooms, intersections, trigger déjà vu more often. They share structural patterns, with many stored memories. The brain recognizes the shape of the moment, not the moment itself. Now here's a quietly surprising point. Déjà vu is more common in people with strong imagination, high pattern sensitivity, abstract thinking styles, curiosity-driven cognition. In other words, brains that build rich internal models. The better your brain is at simulating possibilities, the more often it risks predicting too early. So déjà vu is not a sign of confusion. It's a sign of a brain that moves fast and deeply. Another reason the brain allows this feeling. It tests confidence. When you feel déjà vu, your certainty spikes, but then collapses. This teaches the brain something important, that confidence alone is not evidence. Over time, this helps calibrate judgment, especially in complex environments. So déjà vu may quietly train skepticism, without fear, without damage. Now let's talk about attention. Déjà vu often happens when attention is divided, when you are slightly tired, slightly distracted, slightly inward focused. In those moments, the boundary between perception and prediction softens. The brain leans more heavily on internal models, which increases the chance of mistiming. That's why déjà vu often appears late at night, during travel, in transitional spaces, when the mind is wandering. The brain is still sharp, but the balance shifts. There's also a memory pathway explanation. Some researchers suggest that déjà vu occurs when information briefly enters the familiarity system before it reaches conscious awareness, a kind of shortcut. The brain tags the experience as known before the conscious mind receives it. So when awareness catches up, it finds a label without a file attached. And again, this is not malfunction. It's efficiency showing its seams. Importantly, déjà vu is not linked to imagination overpowering reality. It's not fantasy. It's not delusion. People experiencing déjà vu know something is off. That awareness is crucial. And it's why déjà vu remains harmless. Now let's address a common fear. Does déjà vu mean something is wrong with the brain? In most cases, no. Occasional déjà vu is considered a normal cognitive event. Frequent, intense, distressing déjà vu can be associated with neurological conditions. But the gentle, fleeting version, the one most people experience, is simply a side effect of advanced cognition. Think of it this way. Your brain runs slightly ahead of the present, just enough to be useful. Déjà vu is when you briefly notice the lead. There's something quietly comforting here. It means your brain is not waiting passively for life. It is actively engaging with, trying to understand, trying to anticipate, trying to protect. Even when it misfires slightly, it does so gently. This also explains why déjà vu cannot be forced. You can't decide to have it, because it depends on timing and unconscious processes. The moment you analyze it too hard, it dissolves, like trying to stare directly at peripheral vision. And finally, why does the brain allow the feeling to reach consciousness? Because consciousness itself is not a controller. It's an observer. The brain does not ask permission. It reports states. Déjà vu is one of those reports. A brief message saying, something aligned faster than expected. And then the system moves on. So if you've ever felt déjà vu and wondered if it meant something mystical or unsettling, here is the quiet truth. It means your brain briefly recognized structure before story, pattern before explanation, familiarity before memory. And that moment, when recognition floats without an anchor, is what you feel. In the next part, we'll explore why this feeling fades so quickly and why the brain is almost eager to let it go. But for now, notice how calm the explanation feels. No mystery lost, just understanding gained. Déjà vu is not reality repeating itself. It's the brain momentarily stepping ahead of time, and then gently returning to the present.